Hi, this is your host Shubham Tiwari, and I welcome you to Education Plus, a show brought to you by Wonderpublish Magazine, where we try to bring in the institutional perspective to the discourse around education and, more importantly, education technology. Today's guest is director at School of Education and Dean Students Affairs at Adamas University. She's a thought leader of great repute. Dr. Shauli Mukherjee, we welcome you to Wonderpublish Magazine.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here on this platform today.
Wonderful, ma'am. Ma'am, let's begin, right there. I mean, what is thought leadership? Because, we are in 2021, our next new decade is upon us. And we have heard this term so much that we need to, I think, redefine it. So how do you define it and what it means to you?
To start off with, I would like to tell you that, you see, thoughts are very, very powerful. And we are the leaders and we are the creators of the thought.
Yeah.
So every thought that we have is a kind of an energy which vibrates at a particular frequency. And that gives an impulse to our brain. And matching that impulse and energy, huge groups of cells, they get activated and they start working towards bringing the same thought to reality.
Yeah.
So whatever occupies your mind space, that is actually a GPS for your brain.
Wow.
So the universe, the part of the universe actually matches the part of your thoughts. So if we understand this, we also have to realize that whatever thoughts we are having, they're very, very powerful and they're all created by us. And we are the leaders and we are the originators and initiators of those
Yeah.
thoughts. So you see, if we realize and if we work accordingly,
Yeah.
and if we think like this, that for each one of us, we have to be in the driver's seat of life. And if not, then life will drive us. You see, it's as
True.
simple as that. So, all through my career as an educationist, I have tried to empower the teachers and the students and have tried to make them realize that what is the power of thoughts
Yeah.
so that they can develop into the best and the highest and the truest version of themselves, because that is actually the role of a leader. If you get to think about that, that is what the role of a leader is all about, because the leader has that particular vision, that particular
Yeah.
idea, and that particular goal. And a thought leader will always create a very powerful why, that is a purpose around that particular thought. And when you are able to do that,
Yeah.
it's very easy and it's spontaneous that people get pulled towards your vision, they get pulled towards your thoughts, and that is what thought leadership is all about.
Wonderful. So, ma'am, what intrigues me the most about your career path is that you have always been in charge of students' affairs. I mean, you're already always in touch with them. You understand what they go through somehow. So, as you said, the GPS of the mind or the body. How do you connect with so many GPSs at the same time when you look at so many kids in front of you of all age? How do you lead them?
See, I think it's not only about me, it's about all the educationists and those who are very, very passionately into the field of education. For them, being around with kids, I think it's the happiest moment.
I'm
See,
sure.
and the kids, I believe that they are inherently creative and innately inquisitive in
Wow.
nature.
Okay.
You see, they're so very curious about everything and they have questions about almost everything and anything around them. And that is the best aspect of being a child. The problem is, as we grow up, we tend to, forget that ability of questioning and becoming curious about things around us, and we start taking things for granted.
Yeah.
That is when actually we stop growing as a person. So these are the unique qualities of a child, which I think if we all can, emulate, and we can all keep it within ourselves, and that will be better for us. So even when I was a teacher, I'm still a teacher.
Hmm.
I have many hats to wear. Maybe I'm the director or the dean
Yep.
right now, but I
Yeah.
still feel that I'm a teacher at the core of my heart.
Right.
So when I'm with students, when I'm with kids, I think That is the time when I can align myself with the authentic core of myself, because
Right.
I can be myself with them, you see.
Absolutely. Wonderful. And we all know about leadership acumen, because under your leadership, I guess the STEM World School Kolkata was ranked as the second best international day school. So I mean, what was how did you achieve that? And related to that, how a school can come on that level, let's say.
Yeah. So basically, I'm a very curious kind of a person who has a
Okay.
questioning attitude about each and everything around
Wonderful.
me. So challenging the status quo maybe comes very spontaneously and naturally to me.
Okay.
So I have, always asked few questions for
Hmm.
which I never got a very suitable answer. Say, for
Right.
instance, why do all the teachers in all the schools, they always use a red pen for correction? And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see any point behind that. Secondly, something like, what is the role of standardized testing, which relies heavily on conformity and compliance, and it does not give any priority to a child's creativity and uniqueness or individuality. So,
Right.
why are we conducting standardized tests?
Yeah.
Why are we teaching them outdated contents from the textbooks, which
Yeah.
maybe 20 years back also we also have read? So what is the use of that which has got no relevance with the
Yeah.
real life? you know and things like, very simply put, if even I ask you, so if B stands for bat and C stands for cat, what will A stand for? So it's not only you
Right.
or somebody else. So 99% of people will say, well, A stands for apple.
Apple. Yeah.
You see, that is the reason, why this kind of answers come, because that is exactly what we have been taught in school. And that's the same thing that the kids are right now being taught in the school. So that is the influence that a child carries. You don't forget that A stands for apple,
Yeah.
though A stands for so many other things,
So many.
which
Yeah.
which my kindergarten teacher has not taught me at that point of time. So I always knew A stands for apple. Even my kid, when he went for school, he also started learning the same thing. So that is basically the problem with the current education system, which does not give you know a lot of weightage to
Yeah.
innovation and creativity. So these are the questions which I have always asked. And so uh, you know, at STEM World School, which was a very new school, and I started, taking up that charge as the founder principal of that particular school.
Yeah.
So there was no red pen for correction. The teachers
Wow.
used to correct with multiple colored pens. And there were no textbooks. When I say
Oh.
there were no textbooks in the
Wow.
kindergarten, and I also started the same thing with the
Okay.
primary.
Okay.
So when I said that there are no textbooks, there were no standardized tests.
Hmm.
So it was totally activity oriented teaching and experiential learning that was going on. And I started, it was a part of my conviction. I knew that that is exactly what would happen. And I was so happy to see that the kids started learning at their own pace and they were so happy. So the
Wonderful.
happiness quotient of the students, the teachers, and the parents, they played a very important role, because I always believe that the stress is the buzzword right now.
Yeah.
So even if
Absolutely.
you ask a kid, the kid will say, I'm very stressed out, you see.
Yeah.
So he knows the meaning of the word stress. So
Yeah.
it's not only you and me who's talking about it.
Right.
So, at STEM World School, what happened is that the kids will not speak on those kind of vocabulary,
Oh.
because they were so very happy doing
Okay.
what they were doing, because they were actively engaged in the process of learning,
Right.
you see. And uh, you know this is exactly where I see the role of a leader is, or a school leader is, because a school leader will actually create a kind of a climate around
Yeah.
himself or
A
herself,
conducive
where
climate. Yeah.
correct, where each and every person, be it a teacher or a student or a parent or all the stakeholders, they can be at their creative best, and they can
True.
contribute wholeheartedly. So therein you get the person as a whole in front of you who will be contributing, because in our education system the stress is never caused by the curriculum. It is always caused by the methodology. It's how you teach that causes the stress for the child. It's
Right.
never the content.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
these were the changes which I brought in that particular school, and I'm very happy to share that. I have seen my students, my teachers, and my parents, and all the stakeholders being very happy. Their happiness quotient was very high.
Wonderful, ma'am. And I must say, I mean, when the new education policy came, so your experience sounds as if you already saw what was coming, in the future, because this new education policy tries to do a lot of things. So, what do you think? It's a hit or a miss?
It is actually new education policy 2020. Uh, it's very, very progressive and very, very futuristic,
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
But having said so, the main thing is about the implementation of the same.
Yeah.
So
True.
it all depends on how you implement, and when you start implementing it, then you realize what are the roadblocks and where you are actually standing.
Yeah.
But in terms of a policy, it's absolutely a very futuristic and very, very progressive, and uh, a policy which
Yeah.
I feel that it was a need of the hour. It was a
Right.
need of the hour.
Having said that, ma'am, like educators and leaders like you, they're already, I mean, in for example, you're in the national executive member of Global Edu Leaders Forum for E-Zone, right? So are there any specific tasks or roles you think you should be created going ahead with this education policy, so that particular, let's say for example, issues related to E-Zone can be addressed better?
See, I have a different perspective on this particular question because I don't feel that it is region specific. You
Okay.
see, when you are dealing with the education part,
Yeah.
so it is overall. It is overall. It's not about any particular region which needs a
Addressing.
progressive
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
a reframing or reimagining or a
Correct.
progressive outlook. It's as a whole, the entire education system. If I can tell you, it does not require reformation, it requires a revolution.
Yeah.
So nothing short of a revolution will work for the education sector. Because if you can understand, our current education system is actually based on two premises. One
Okay.
is, uh, you know, the industrial factory model of productivity, and the second is the prison model. So if you see, if you really introspect, and if you see that the pattern of roll call,
Right.
or the children coming in uniform, or in a particular classroom the children sitting in rows and columns setup, that all has come from the prison mentality.
Prison. Yeah.
You see why it was introduced. If you see, it was introduced so that the criminals or the convicts will not be interacting with each other, and there will be less chaos. So that is exactly how the children are sitting also right now in 21st century in their school classroom setup. So
Yeah.
that needs a huge change. I mean, changes will never come unless there is a change in the mindset. You have to understand, you have to always question, why are you doing what you are doing? So
Right.
if you can question, and if you have that questioning ability, and as educators, I think we all must question. And there is nothing like given. Why are we doing something which we have always done maybe 100 years back?
Right.
So everything has changed. Our histories have changed. Our geographies have changed. But our teaching and our education, sadly,
Remains
has
the
not.
same. Right. So, ma'am, would you say, like, we have gone through this, pandemic, and we are sort of, at the stage of reopening. So, do you see the mindset has changed among the educators?
Definitely. Definitely. So I think both
And
on
I,
the professional, both
yeah,
on the professional as well as
right.
on the personal ground,
Okay.
it's not only about educators, it's about I think everybody. So it's a very big mind shift that
Yeah.
has come about, not only for the children but for the parents, for the teachers, for the educators, and for everybody.
Yeah.
I think primarily what pandemic has done, and I'm very Shubham, if I have to tell you, I'm
Please,
very,
please. Yeah.
I'm very choosy about the vocabulary that I speak in.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
I have never ever for once said that it's a very difficult time. No, it's not a
Okay.
difficult time. It's a different time. So the moment you say the word difficult, it gives a different kind of an impulse to your brain and start feeling the same way. So future is not uncertain, or these are not uncertain times. Times are always uncertain. If it had not been uncertain, so life insurance policies wouldn't have been there. You see. So I'm very choosy and particular about the words that I speak
Right.
because I know the words are very powerful.
Yeah.
So pandemic has given a whole lot of opportunity for everybody. I think to take a pause, to reflect,
Right.
and to introspect, and to ask those difficult yet pertinent questions. That what is the purpose? What is the
Yeah.
purpose of my existence? Why
Yeah.
am I still here? So the very fact that I'm still here, it means that I still matter.
Of course. Yeah.
You see, I exist on this planet
Yeah.
till now because I matter. I matter because I have to give something, I have to contribute something. And for the pandemic and for the education sector, especially, I think a lot of changes have taken place,
Yeah.
which wouldn't have taken place if the pandemic
Without the
was not.
pandemic. Yeah.
So thanks to the
True.
COVID times, that a lot of positive changes have taken place, and blended learning will be the way forward,
Okay.
which wouldn't have been the scenario if everything would have gone in the same.
Ma'am, can you be more specific about, what are the changes that you're talking about? Positive changes. Then I'll get to the negative ones.
Sure. I don't see any negativity in that sense
Oh,
of the term.
we can see
So
that. Yeah.
yeah. So positive changes in the sense, if you can see in the mindset of the educator, they have realized that they have to be a lifelong learner. They have to
Very
continuously
important. Yeah.
continuously they have to unlearn, and they have to relearn, and they have to keep on learning on a continuous basis. And I see educators being more collaborative
Right.
because they're no longer working in the silos anymore. They have understood and realized the importance of collaboration, because it is said that as teachers, the greatest resource that you can have as a teacher is each other.
Wonderful.
Unless you collaborate, your perspectives, your growth is limited to your perspectives, so you have to collaborate.
Yeah.
And the educators have also realized that giving excessive weightage and importance to IQ will maybe not help.
That's very
So this
important. Yeah.
yeah, this is the time when the educators have actually understood that a lot of emphasis has to be given on EQ, HQ. Let me break it
Okay.
out:
Yeah. Yeah. Please.
the emotional quotient, the happiness quotient, the passion quotient, the spiritual quotient, the social quotient, and the adversity quotient.
Wow.
These are
Okay.
equally, if not more important than intelligence quotient only.
Right.
So this is the time when educators have realized that, and they have become much more adaptable and flexible uh, towards change.
Right.
And they have in such a short time, they have changed their perspectives, they have changed their entire dynamics of teaching learning. So big kudos to the teaching fraternity. So I see a lot of positive changes, and that is sure to have a very very big impact on how the students are also learning, because even for the students, you see, they have started taking ownership of their own learning. They have
Yes.
started becoming
Self
self-directed
discipline. Yes.
learners,
Exactly.
which they were not. They used to take a lot of things for granted. But when, for more than 9 months or 10 months, they have not been able to go to the school, they have not been able to meet their friends physically.
Yeah.
Maybe for the first time, our kids have started realizing the value of socialization, the value of schooling, and the value of, having a good teacher by
Exactly.
his or her side. So they have stopped taking things for granted. This is a lot of positives.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. So, I mean, it's been quite a long time now. Do you miss your students? I mean, have you met any of them in this 10 months?
Uh, well, for me, it's a little bit different
Okay.
because it's not a work from home for me, because I go to my university on a regular basis.
Right.
And, very happily, I can share that. And my students right now, because
Yeah.
I'm in the higher education sector. So my students are not the kids anymore. So they
Right.
are all the would-be teachers and the PhD scholars who are working in the field of education.
Okay.
So almost in a week, once, in a group, maybe in a small group of maybe 5 6 students. They come and they try to interact physically with the faculty members and with me. So the missing part is not very much there, because I'm very much in touch with
Involved,
them,
yeah.
and
Right.
almost on a daily basis. So
Wonderful.
we are very much connected.
Wonderful, ma'am. So, ma'am, you spoke about constantly striving to learn new things for educators, also for students. So, I would like to ask you, what were the things that you learned about yourself, or the new things during this pandemic, or I mean, you're still finding out.
Uh, well, two very important shifts
Okay.
happened, I would
Okay.
say. One on the professional ground and one on the personal ground. So, on the professional ground, if I have to tell you, this is the time, the pandemic was the time when I had, taken a professional shift from school education to higher ed.
Higher education. Okay.
Yes, because almost for more than 23 years, I have been working in the school education sector. And being in the school education sector, I have actually set up three international schools in Kolkata, and one being the first STEM school in West Bengal. So I was very much, associated with the school education
Yeah.
sector. So during this pandemic, I had actually, stepped into the higher education domain, where I took on as the charge for the director for the School of Education and Dean of Student Affairs at a very premier university in Eastern India. So professionally, there is a shift from school education to higher education. Having said so, I always wanted to, work with the real influencers, and that is the teachers, because
Okay.
the teachers have a very great role to play. Needless for me to mention that the teachers have a huge role to play. If I can give you just one example to
Please.
you,
Yeah.
it will be easier for you as well as for the viewers to understand. Now, research has proved that till the age of 7, a child's brain is in the theta brainwave stage. The theta
Okay.
brainwave stage is something which we as adults, when we start, when we try to go into a meditative state, when we try to meditate, so that is the theta brainwave stage, is that particular stage which we are aiming at.
Okay.
And the children, till the age of 7, they are naturally and spontaneously in that particular stage. So
Always. Okay.
yes.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
having said so, which is something so wonderful, but the word of caution is, anything that you tell a particular child during that stage, or anything that you do, has a lasting impression on the child's mind. Any damaging word, any self-limiting
True.
sentence,
It will
as
remain
simple
with
as
them. Yeah.
that, why are you acting in a stupid way? You are a
Yeah.
very, not, you will never make it big, or something, or whatever. If you tell them anything which is self-limiting at that
Yeah.
point of time, it gets permanently imprinted on their minds. And you
True.
see, there's a subconscious downloading which happens during that stage. So teachers as well as parents, they have to be very, very conscious
Yeah.
about
Absolutely.
the words that they are speaking to a particular child.
Absolutely.
So, the role of a teacher is very crucial and very important. So I was always wanted to, work with the influencers who are the teachers.
Teachers.
So this is the time, as a director of School of Education, I'm actually getting the opportunity of nurturing the mindset of the would-be teachers. So I'm very
Wonderful.
happy in doing that.
Wonderful.
That
And it
is,
shows. I mean, we can see that. Like, when a person enjoys his work, I mean, his or her work, we can see. So, yeah. So, ma'am, you sort of made a transition. I mean, from being with kids to now, let's say adolescents, right? So, teenagers. So, you have, been with all kinds of age groups. You have seen them going through this pandemic. So, what was their response to online classes, online tools, reading from this tool and assessment on that tool, educate online classes there? So how was it for them?
it is like, how are the students taking the entire shift?
Yes, from their perspective. Yeah.
So I would say that the students are very excited,
Okay.
very, they're really very excited, because the children, I have never seen a child who is not enthusiastic or excited about new things. So all children are innately curious
Okay.
and inquisitive about and excited about any new thing happening around him or her. So that's the same thing with either with the kids or the adolescents. So when this shift, compelling shift to
Yeah.
the online teaching learning ecosystem happened, so they, it was a very big excitement for them. Uh, that was the first stage, and
No
then
schools. Yeah.
they have, yeah, and they have even even the little ones in the kindergarten, be it them or be the grown ups.
Yeah.
So they have taken it up as something which is very positive, something which is very futuristic. And when once they have started doing it, they have realized the value and the benefits attached with it. So as I told you earlier also, I have seen students being more self-directed learners and taking the ownership of their
Wow.
learning. And one more positives which I have noticed is that a greater role of the parents. The parents have started getting more involved. The
Yes.
parental involvement has increased. The children being, more connected with the family, taking a part in the household chores, and a greater connect with the family, a greater connect with the parents, a greater connect with the family members, realizing the value of the family. And also I would like to say that I've seen a lot of children pursuing their hobbies
Yeah.
very, very seriously. So it can be reading, it can be writing, it can even be cooking. It can be something which is very different also, which they were not maybe getting that much of time to do it earlier, but now they are doing it. They are learning at their own pace,
Right.
and they have taken a lot of responsibility for what they are doing. And I think that the experiences which they have gained during this pandemic and are
Right.
still gaining, that will help them to better equip them for an unpredictable future in
Right.
days to come, because these are the life skills which they have learned,
And
and
at
they
at a very young age, I mean, it's
have at a
very good to
very
see that.
young age. At a
Yes,
very young
exactly.
age,
Exactly.
yes.
So, ma'am, we are at the fag end of this interview. So, I would like to give you, two messages. One to the first one to the educators who may be, struggling, teachers who may be going through a job change or may have lost their job, or this administrators who are, finding it difficult to get through this time. So, first message for them, and secondly, please speak to the kids of, this nation.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for the educators, as I have earlier mentioned, I will just like to say that it's not a difficult time, it's a different time. And the only way forward is to upskill ourselves,
Upskilling.
because
Yeah. Very
yeah,
important.
upscaling ourselves, because if you're not in this VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous,
Okay.
the only way forward is to upskill yourself and to keep yourself, aligned with what the society and the present moment demands out of us. So
Right.
this is exactly what is demanded out of us. And
Yeah.
this is not a trying time, but this is a time wherein we have to prove that we have much to contribute. So please don't lose heart and don't lose hope, because whatever changes have happened, it has happened for the better.
Good.
And
Better.
a
Yeah.
lot of positives we have seen, and a lot of positives we will be seeing also. But the only thing is that unless we change ourselves, unless we change our mindsets, we will not be able to, embrace that positivity wholeheartedly.
Right.
And for the students, well, uh, I would like to say that always remember that the world does not care how much you know, but the
Okay.
world cares about what you do with what you know. And for
Okay.
that, it is very, very important for every one of us to realize why we do what we do. So there is a very interesting concept, interesting Japanese concept, ikigai.
Okay.
That is, the reason for being, or the purpose of the existence. And this is one reason why I should wake up in the morning every day. This is the purpose. So ikigai, we have to find out our ikigai, the real purpose for which we are still existing. That is the big why, the purpose, you see. And ikigai is very simple. It lies at the intersection of what you're good at and what you love doing. So the day you find your ikigai or your purpose for your life, you don't have to pull people towards your purpose or towards your goal. People get pulled towards you.
Wow.
So always realize that. And my last message to the students would be, ask yourself one very important question. And often parents and adults ask children that, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, it's
So instead
always
of,
there.
it's a very
Cliched.
cliched
Yeah.
kind of a question.
Right.
But instead of asking that question, if we can ask our kids, what is that one problem that you would like to solve when you grow up,
Wonderful.
which would bring a lot of difference in people's lives around you. So I think the children will be forced, compelled to think in different ways, to think critically and creatively. And they have a creative self already with
Right.
them, and they can create wonders, wonders.
Wonderful, ma'am. And with the that many points to take from this wonderful interview and this positive talk, I would like to thank Dr. Shauli Mukherjee for taking her time to speak with us. Thank you, ma'am.
It's my pleasure, Shubham. It was really, really a very enlightening, and I thoroughly enjoyed speaking to
Wonderful.
you.
And I hope our viewers also enjoyed it. So I'll see you next time in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us.